Hey guys, and welcome to Simply Dark episode 15. In today's episode, we are going to be talking about terrifying dead row criminals that you probably never heard of. So, in the United States, to be given a sentence of a dead row, you have to have done something really crazy, like murder someone or something like that. Here in Europe, we don't have a dead row, but I know that in America this is a huge thing, and I know that at the moment I think there's more than 3,000 inmates on dead row. So I thought this would be an interesting topic to talk in here. So we're gonna start with Andre Thomas, the murderer who blinded himself. In 2005, in Texas, Andre Thomas was convicted of the murder of his wife and his two young children. Killing his victims with different knives, he claimed that he didn't want to contaminate their blood and allow the demons inside their bodies to live. Now, while his behavior was horrific and bizarre, what differentiates Thomas from other killers is what he did next. 5 days after being taken into custody, he removed one of his own eyes. And despite his self-mutilation, he was ruled to be sane enough to stand trial. The act considered the result of substance abuse, not mental illness. He was convicted and sentenced to death in November 3rd, 2005. 3 years later, in 2008, after failing to commit suicide, he removed his other eye, inducing, obviously, total blindness. And the craziest thing is that after removing his second eye, he actually ate it. I feel so sick, it just makes me sick to my stomach, but yeah, he did that. He did that. So now, technically, because of this, he's not in death row anymore. He has been relocated to the psychiatric ward of Texas prison, but he still faces a death sentence, which is being appealed. Next, we have John Familaro, the Icebox Killer. On June 2nd of 1991, 23-year-old Denise Hoover attended a Morrissey concert in Los Angeles. She was last seen by friends when she left a Long Beach bar in the early morning, intent on driving to her parents' home, which was actually her house as well. The next morning, her parents realized that she wasn't on her bed and she hadn't slept at home at all that night, and immediately notified the police. Later on, a friend found Denise's car on a nearby Orange County freeway. The battery was drained by the emergency flashers that were activated the night before, and for 3 years, police and her parents had no idea what happened to Denise. Now, on July 1994, a couple went to a residence in Prescott, AZ to purchase paint from a man called John Familaro, whom they have met at a swap meeting. While picking up the paint, they notice a Ryder rental truck parked in the rear of the driveway that clearly have been there for a very long time. They wrote down the license plate number and then pass it on to a friend who worked for the local sheriff's department. The plate came back as stolen from Orange County. When a deputy knocked on Familaro's door and he got no answer, he also noticed that an electrical cord running down from an outside plugger to the truck. Thinking that he had stumbled on a mobile drug lab, the deputy opened the back of the truck, inside of which he discovered a large freezer. And when he opened the freezer, he found inside the frozen body of a young female adult. She was naked, handcuffed, and wrapped in garbage bags. Famularo had passed by Denise as she walked from her car, offered her a ride, knocked her unconscious, and then took her to his warehouse where he then killed her. Forensic anthropologists also determined that she had been raped and her skull battered. So obviously all this qualified Famularo to the death row, and he was convicted and sentenced to death in 1997. The third man we are going to talk about is George Emil Banks, and apparently he murdered his girlfriend and children to save them. In 1982, George Emil Banks told his co-workers that an impending race war was going to destroy the world. He was then placed on leave and subjected to a mental health evaluation. On September 25, after an evening of heavy drinking and drug consumption, Banks used an assault rifle to kill 8 people in his own home, including 3 women who were the mothers of his children and 5 children, 4 of them his. He then went to another girlfriend's trailer and killed her as well. He also killed his son that he had with her, his girlfriend's mother, and his girlfriend's niece, leaving the trailer, as you can imagine, a bloody nightmare. He then also killed one of his neighbors and injured another person very, very badly, to the point that she needed to go to the hospital. Then after a standoff, Banks finally surrendered and was charged with 13 murders and 1 attempt murder. He said that he did not want his children and his girlfriend, all white by the way, to be victimized in the coming race war. Banks testified at his own trial and claimed that the police actually killed his victims during the spree. He did not kill them, he had only wounded them. Now, despite his attorney's insanity defense, Banks was convicted and sentenced to death. Now, over the years, he avoided 2 separate execution dates through federal appeals concerning his sanity, and was ultimately declared not mentally competent for execution. However, despite his age, Banks is still considered dangerous enough to be housed in Pennsylvania's death penalty unit. Now, the last but not least is Bobby Joey Long, an amazingly proficient rapist and killer. By the time he was on his early 30s, Bobby had a pretty basic technique to sexually assault his victims. He would answer classified ads, and if he found a woman home alone, he would rape and rob her. But in 1984, Bobby seems to have suddenly escalated to even more violent crimes. The area law enforcement from Tampa, Florida, became alarmed by the rapid and unexpected increase of murder cases in the area. Bobby no longer got fulfillment by raping. He began to strangle or slash his victims to death. After killing 5 women that he picked up in bars, Bobby kidnapped 17-year-old Lisa McVeigh while she was riding her bicycle. He took her to his apartment, raped and abused her for 24 hours. But then, inexplicably, he released her. This would obviously lead to his arrest in November 1984 and later on a confession to multiple murders. He pleaded guilty to all of his crimes and received 28 life sentences and 1 death sentence. Now, Bobby's case brings us to the end of this video. I hope you guys liked the video. I hope you like to know a little bit more about people that are currently on death row. Obviously, like I said in the beginning of this video, there's many more. We could stay here and talk for hours about every single one of them, but these are just some of them that I thought were like, whoa, like how can any human being do such things like this? It's my brain can't comprehend what happened to these people to make them do such terrible things. I just can't wrap my mind around it, and I thought that this is obviously real life and would be a good episode for our Simply Dark series. So if you guys did like this video, don't forget to give it a little thumbs up. It really helps my episodes get out there. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, join the family, and make sure you get all my videos on time. I also have a new website that has all episodes from the beginning and you can watch them at any time. So if you are interested in that, I will leave a link in the description box below so you can check it out. That's it for me today. I love you guys and I will see you in my next episode. Bye!